Welcome to another show of the Community Health Education in Cable. We are delighted to offer you one more show about healthy living in Chelsea. In the past, we have offered smart shopping on a budget and healthy cooking show. And today we are going to learn a little bit more about reading the labels. Sometimes going to a supermarket, having so much choices of food, we get all confused, and a lot of the brand it says and it's labeled as healthy food, but is it worth it for us to invest more money into these brands? Or actually we can read in the labels for cues that can identify for really healthy food with a better economic perspective. Today we will have with us Jennifer Vichy, which is one of the nutritionists that work in MGH Chelsea, and also we will have with us Vincent Joseph, that we call General Pep. He is one of the community health worker and work as medical translator also at our clinic. He has collected many questions from the community in asking about how to read the labels. And with you, we have them to discuss all these questions.
Hello, my name is Pep. We've gathered some questions from our patients at MGH Chelsea, and all of us are very excited to get some answers about how to read nutrition labels. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Great, thanks, Pep. How are you?
Good, good, good. So let's start with the first question. What can I do to read nutrition information on food labels?
When we start learning about how to read food labels, it's really important to first just kind of familiarize ourselves with the major sections of a food label. It'll start with the serving size, then calories, then we have the different types of fat and cholesterol, and different types of nutrients are listed at the bottom of the label.
What are servings and what are serving sizes?
Basically, the serving size is the amount of food that the rest of the nutrition information is based on. So if you double the serving, for instance, a serving of this food is 8 ounces or 1 cup. Doesn't mean that's all you can eat, but if you double the serving, you need to double the rest of the information that's listed on the label.
What are calories?
Calories we get from fat, protein, and carbohydrates, and our bodies use calories to give us energy. And basically, I was just going to say that we all need a different amount of calories each day, and generally speaking, we want to be mindful of how many calories we eat, because if we consume too many or eat too many calories, we might gain weight.
So should I watch how many calories I take in every day?
Exactly. I'm sorry. I guess I already answered that, but absolutely. You want to just really be aware of how many calories you're eating each day and try not to eat too many.
How can I best understand the types of fats listed in the label?
Well, when you look at the label, it's broken down so that the total fat is always listed first. The total fat includes both the good and the bad fat. And what I tell patients, what's more important to look at rather, is the saturated fat and the trans fat, because these are the bad types of fat that negatively can affect our cholesterol and our heart. The saturated fat, ideally most of our foods should say 2 grams or less, and the trans fat should always be 0.
How do I know if the listed cholesterol is good or bad? Does cholesterol-free food protect my heart?
Well, when we talk about cholesterol, there's blood cholesterol that is good and bad. The HDL we refer to as our good cholesterol, and the LDL we refer to as our bad cholesterol. And our goal is we really want to limit the LDL as much as possible. So in order to do that, we need to be careful with the types of fat that we're consuming. We want to eat less bad fat, so less of the saturated fat and the trans fat, and more of the good fats, which we refer to as plant-based fats, such as olive oil, canola oil, fish, and nuts. And by consuming foods that are low in cholesterol, it can help to protect our heart and keep our cholesterol levels low.
What is the difference between sodium and salt?
When we talk about sodium, we're usually referencing table salt. There's different types of sodium. Table salt is just a fancy, it's also known as sodium chloride. And we want to limit our salt intake, especially if we have high blood pressure or other medical problems. And generally speaking, we should try to keep our salt intake to about 2,300 milligrams a day. And that sounds like a big number, but it's really only 1 teaspoon. And label reading is one of the best ways that we can know how much salt we're consuming. And when you look at a label, if the sodium content is 140 milligrams or less, it means that it's low in salt.
What makes up carbohydrates in food?
Well, carbohydrates include the fiber, the sugar, and the starch. And our carbohydrate intake should basically be about half of what we take in for calories every day. And if you're a diabetic or you have other medical problems where you need to watch your carbohydrates, it's really important to read the labels for the total carbohydrate intake.
How much sugar is too much for adults and children?
Well, technically, when you look at the label, if the food sugars are listed as 7 grams or more, it means that it's a higher sugar food. And we know that we want to limit sugar. This is important for everybody, adults and children, because mostly foods that are high in sugar are low in nutrients, low in nutritional value.
What does fiber do to my health? How can I tell if a food has high fiber or low fiber?
Well, fiber has so many benefits. Fiber is important for digestion. It helps us to prevent constipation. It helps to protect our heart, keep our cholesterol levels low. Generally speaking, we want to try to get at least 25 grams of fiber per day. Fiber is going to be found in fruits, it's found in vegetables, it's found in whole grains and nuts and beans and seeds. And when you look at the label, if the dietary fiber is listed as 3 grams or more, it means it's a good source of fiber. And if it has 5 grams or more, it's excellent. So this is an excellent source of fiber.
Is protein important to my health, and how much protein do adults and children need per day?
Protein is also very important for our health. It is important for repairing muscles and tissues and supplying adequate iron. And about 20% of our daily calorie intake should come from protein. But what we want to do is try to include lean sources of protein in our diet. Protein is typically found in dairy products and meats and meat substitutes like peanut butter and beans and nuts. So instead of choosing full-fat dairy products, you might want to choose low-fat dairy products and make sure you're choosing, let's say, more chicken or fish as opposed to red beef.
Can I trust the claims on the label? That is, for instance, low-fat, zero trans fat, all-natural, sugar-free, premium, so on?
For the most part, yes, but it definitely can be misleading. Let's say sometimes you might look at a label and it says light. For instance, there's brown sugar that says light brown sugar, and people might think it has low calories, but what it's actually referring to is the color. But the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration, tells us what can go on the label, and they're very strict about it. But whenever you're in doubt, the best thing that you can do is really look at the ingredients and read the nutrition facts to make sure that you're making a healthy choice.
I have time limitations when I go shopping. What are a couple of things or red flags on the label that I should look for?
Well, in today's society, we are often in such a rush. What I would suggest is that you make a list before you get to the grocery store with the foods that you want to buy. And then when you're there, if you have time to look at something quick, I would just look at the % daily values and take a glance down. And if a food has 20% or more, it means that it's high in that particular nutrient. And if it has 5% or less, it means that it's low in that particular nutrient. So we can tell that this food is high in vitamin C and it's low in saturated fat, which is what we want to do, is keep the saturated fat and the trans fat low.
I'm a father and I often go shopping with my children who are influenced by advertisements on TV. What criteria can I use when making choices for them?
Well, there is a lot of temptation on TV, and especially even some of the commercials around kids' programs are geared towards foods that aren't as healthy for us. So again, I would make a list. I would encourage your children to come to the store with you and help you stick to that list. Sometimes they like to just cross off the foods as you get them, and maybe allow them one treat each week. But really, we want to limit as much temptation as possible.
Can standard values be tailored based on individual needs or someone's medical conditions?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned earlier, everyone has different calorie needs. We all have different medical problems and concerns and different lifestyle goals. And when you meet with a nutritionist or you meet with your doctor or nurse at the health center, they can sit with you and help you tailor a diet that is based on your medical problems or your lifestyle concerns.
How do I read the long list of ingredients? That is, natural versus chemical ingredients?
The way the ingredients are set up on the label, the ingredient or the product that appears first is what is in that food in the largest amount. The ingredient that is listed last is contained in the smallest amount. What I usually tell people is to look for ingredient lists that aren't too long and where you can recognize the words, because if there's too many chemicals or additives, it might mean that you're not making the most healthful food choice.
I'm confused with weight measurements used in food labels, that is milligrams versus grams. Okay.
That can be a little bit tricky for people too when you look at the label. Usually the labels are broken down in the way that they include common household measurements like 8 ounces or a cup, but then they also get a little bit more scientific with milligrams and grams. The fat will always be listed in grams on the label, and the sodium and the cholesterol will always be listed in milligrams.
How can I read food labels when they are not in Spanish?
Well, this can be a challenge too, and although the food label reading is a nice way for us to familiarize ourselves with healthy food choices, it's not absolutely necessary for everyone. What you could do is maybe bring a friend or a family member to the store, if that's possible, or you could bring your food labels from home to the health center and sit down with myself or your healthcare provider and ask specific questions that you have about the label.
All right, thank you very much, Jennifer. That was very informational.
You're welcome, Pep. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Pep and Jasmine that have collected really practical questions from our patients. And thank you, Jennifer, for helping us to sort of like break down in really easy steps in how to emerge in the confused world of label reading. Now we can know that by summary, we can just break down in different sections. First, look at the amount of calories and remember the serving size varies per component, and if we see that the serving size is that amount, that is what the calorie is based. So we have to multiply the how many servings is in that container. In this case, it's 3. So if we're going to eat the whole bag of, if this is a potato chip, we're going to have 540 calories. That is 180 multiplied by 3. And then the important thing, if we want to do fast, read whatever is below 5%, that means that food is low in fat in this case. And if it is over 20% or roughly 20%, this number, then we know that, oh, fiber, this here is 20% high. We want food that is high in fiber. And at the end of the day, we need to know how much amount of calorie we're intaking, that is, which is this number, the summary number. And thank you very much. I hope that this was helpful for you to start practicing your skills. At least when you're in the supermarket, read one label at a time that you're shopping. And if you have any question, we all welcome you to come to visit your doctor or to your nutritionist to get more tips in reading these food labels that in the long run can help us and help us to make healthier food for our family. Thank you again for watching us, and this is another show for Be Smart and read the food labels.